Just how do you mentally deal with days when you're recovering, but it feels like a glacier like pace? So, injury rehab and recovery and the mental side of that thing is a bit different to slow progress. The simple answer for both of those is when it comes to slow progress, you need to be really process orientated. So, that kind of growth mindset where you're just focusing on the sets and reps you're doing. You don't even necessarily need to have this overarching, undeniable belief that you're definitely going to hit this number. You don't even, it's, you can have it, but you don't need to be thinking about it all the time. You don't need to come into every session and think, this is what I'm going to do to hit a 100 kilo snatch. This is definitely it. That can help some people. Some people get caught up in that and get too concerned with it. What you really need to do is, assuming you're on a good program and you're in a position where the training makes sense, is you just have to deal with each day as it comes. You don't worry about the weeks ahead because you either have someone take care of your programming or you have maybe your own programming done and you trust it. So in that case, you just nice and process oriented. Like for example, at the moment, I'm finally able to kind of push it a bit again from the knee injury. And, you know, would you look at it from the outside and say, it mustn't be enjoyable doing 100 kilo snatches 2 or 3 times a week and 110 kilo snatches 2 or 3 times a week and then 120. Like I did some singles at 130 recently last week and I was really, really happy with them. So you have to put everything in context in your training. You have to be really happy with the wins in the context where things are. And if you can start just being really really zen with the process and just doing what it needs to be doing and not expecting too much of it or not getting really down because you feel like this isn't necessarily going in that fashion, that becomes then how you end up getting that long-term process. Now, you do have to have a bit of drive and motivation, of course, but when you see people who treat every session like it's the absolute just training to the death, just pushing yourself as hard as possible. Every session is make or break with session. The problem with that is every session simply cannot be a great session. So a lot of times people come into a session, they don't feel great, but they hit what they need to do. And because they didn't feel great, they associate that with a bad session. But rather, did you get the work you needed to get done? Yes, then that makes it a good session. That's all that matters. So when you're recovering, training's tough. You just need to almost relax a little bit. Every time I see someone who's like crazy intense, who's pushing every session with a zero abandon to any kind of rigor or being smart about how the training is, they often either get injured or it really starts to affect them outside of training, which is super unproductive. You need to just close off training in certain ways and you need to treat sessions as they are. And if at the moment, for me, 100 kilo triples are what needs to be done, then that's what needs to be done. Do I want to be doing 60% of my all-time best? You could look at it and say, you might assume that's awful, how boring that must be. Or doing 200 kilo for triples now in the back squat, which is like 60%. This is not how I treat it. Every time they go well, I'm really happy. So if you can, dare I say, become a bit more of that kind of gratitude mindset with sessions, and you can start to appreciate that this is probably taking you where you want to go when you're able to train, then you'll be better off. In terms of recovering from injury is, again, similar to confidence. You just have to be confident to know that what you're doing is going to help you recover no matter how long it takes.
You, on the injury side of things as well, you really have to get two major things into your brain. And you might have to get them into your brain by writing it on your hand and staring at it every day. And the first one is the non-linear fashion of tissue recovery in normal organic beings. If you have a torn tendon, a broken limb, whatever it is, people expect it to be day one of being injured, it's quite sore. Day two, it's less sore. Day three, it's less sore. Day four, it's stronger. Day five, it's stronger. And that is simply not true. Certainly when we look at it in terms of weeks, months, or years, that will be the fashion where everything is improving and the slope of that line is nice and consistent. But when you go day to day, there will be massive inconsistencies in how that is feeling, how that actually is as a structural entity, and how well you're going to be able to move around with it. So if you're knitting a bone back together, you might have a really good feeling of stability and pain-free at the end of week 3 or as we get into week 4 of any of those kind of longer normal bones within the body. It's very normal for week 5 or 6 then for you to have a lot of pain and discomfort in the limb. It's not something where you're going to see this super linear recovery all the time, particularly when we get into more of the sensitive areas like tendon rehabilitation, particularly once you get into more of the areas that have slightly more neurological sensitivity. Like when we look at tendons and loading tendons and the fact that we're going to be moving around all day and that tendon will be loading and unloading its force constantly, you cannot and should not expect that to be a after 2 weeks it'll be like this, and after 3 weeks it'll be like this, and after 4 weeks it's going to be perfect. Obviously, there are standard return to play protocols. Obviously, there are expected recovery timelines, but you should not expect it to be perfectly linear in a day to day fashion. And so, just because you go to open a door handle with your left hand and it's still sore, and you thought that after 7 weeks it wouldn't be still sore, that's not necessarily an issue. The second thing you have to get into your brain is that you should be chasing something else as if your entire athletic career or your entire athletic personality is based off it, right? So if you're a weightlifter and you've hurt your knees and you can't do weightlifting, then go and get after something else. Have a secondary goal to put all of your neuroticism into, have something else to put all of that real drive and motivation that you have from your sport that you're not able to do right now. So if you're after rupturing your MCL, get a massive bench press. If you're after damaging your back and you can't train at all, then really clean up your diet and make sure your physique is as good as it can possibly be by the end of this rehab period. Like, chase something with the same veracity and the same level of intensity that you're chasing your sporting goals with, and it'll make that entire rehab process so much easier to get through while maintaining your sanity.